You ready? Good evening. I would like to call to order the August 14th, 2023 regular session. We'll do a roll call of board members present. I am present. Christy? Present. Present.
Present.
And Mark is with us via Zoom. Hi, Mark.
Yeah, I'm present. Yeah.
Great. Okay, if everybody will please rise to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll move on to introductions of audience and staff. You can go ahead and start.
Tim Graham, principal at Cal. Brian Burke, assistant principal, Horseshoe High School.
Tim Shared, Director of Services.
Sarah Ogle, STPA president. Darren O'Neill, high school principal.
John O'Neill, assistant superintendent.
Arturo Lomeli, Director of Curriculum and Instruction.
Enrique Pinion, Technology Department.
Eileen Klute, Finance.
All right, thanks for joining us tonight. I will go ahead and make the motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is that fine, Kathy? Can I just do that? I don't want to do a roll call. Okay, great.
Aye. Yeah.
Great, Mark, thanks.
It's on a delay.
I didn't forget about you. I just figured I couldn't hear you. Correspondence and celebration. And we got a letter from, I don't know where the folks from Doug Doherty. We elected him to be on Northwest VSB board member, and he just gave a little letter bio. If anybody'd like to read it, I will pass it down. Lots of information in here, good stuff. Do you have any other correspondence?
No, that's it, correspondence.
Okay, and then the student representative, Dave's gonna meet with our student rep in a week or so, and then maybe after the school year starts, we'll have the student rep.
Yeah, I think the first meeting in September or the last,
August
August 28th.
Oh, okay, and can you remind us who it is? Darren, who is the student rep? Nate Pratt. Nate Pratt, all right, so Nate will join us next week. Calendar notes, turn over to Dave.
Kind of got it built into my superintendent comments, so just some information for you and everybody else, which is high school start time and finish time is changing. Last year, as we were trying to get kids on buses, there were some periods of time where some number of kids were out in front of the high school for upwards of 40 minutes. And so in working with transportation to kind of solve this problem, we've now, two things are happening. One is that we think now that we can get like 70 or 80% of the kids onto their buses and rolling in the first wave. And then the second wave should be smaller, and we don't think it'll take as long. But in doing that, the thing that we did do is we're going to start 15 minutes later, 8:30-ish.
8:30 to 3:25.
And it'll go a little bit later, which for high school students, that's not a terrible thing. But wanted to make sure that you and we announced it publicly so that people kind of knew what was going on. But this is all to kind of solve, make that after school transition better for students.
Yes,
and staff.
I think that's a great idea, because there's times like when it's raining and cold and kids are out there waiting forever, and then also supervising them is challenging as well, so that was like a good solution.
Hiring is going well. In the past 2 years, we've been hiring upwards over 100 people per summer. This year, we are at 36 teachers hired and 18 classified employees. And 16 of those 36 teachers were actually temp teachers for us already. And so I think this is a couple of different reasons. One is that I think the stat we brought in last spring was like 46% of our staff was in their first 5 years with us. So our staff's changed quite a bit. And second thing for us, I think, is we've always had pretty good longevity. People tend to stay in this district. So I think it's kind of a combination of both of those. We do have some positions that were newly posted, but for the most part, we're pretty hired up. I think SPED is actually, we were hired up as of a little while ago. So
Yeah, we only have a few classified positions filled.
So far so good on the HR side of this. Wanted to welcome, we will welcome back teachers on August 28th. And school's gonna begin for, I forget it's like, I have it written down, but yeah, well, we have Jumpstart going on the week of
Next week.
Yeah, next week. We've got, the first day, the 5th will be, initial, it's 5th grades, 7th grade, 9th grade. On the, September 8th or September 6th, basically everybody reports to school except for kindergarten, and kindergarten starts on September 7th, just so the board kind of knows what's going on there. This year, we had a lot of training and that we needed to do in that in-service. So the other thing that we did is normally on Tuesday morning, I greet the staff. We turned that back to our departments because we had in-service to do. There's just so much work that we have to do. So we are going to run a social though, because I still want to bring people together. So I'm inviting all of you on August 29th at 4 p.m. Joe and Marianne Guerra are going to bring their barbecue mastery and going to be cooking a barbecue and sides for everyone. Just wanted to invite you. There's no agenda really. It's just going to be greeting people and kind of having some fun together before the school year starts.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock. At the high school, to be in the back, we on the back side of the cafeteria is kind of where we're trying to locate that. But the RSVP went out today. Already have about 20 folks who have kind of RSVP for it, and then we'll kind of keep working so we can figure out how many folks we're going to have there. And with that, last week we met with our administrators. We had a great 2 days kind of getting ready and getting energized for the school year. A lot of work to do this year, but also a lot of good energy with we have new folks coming in, and it's I think it's going to be a great year. So the superintendent comments.
All right, thanks so much. Kathy, are there any unscheduled public appearances? Great. At this time, we're going to do the consent agenda. It is made up of routine, non-controversial items to be voted on under one motion. Are there any items within the consent items that a board member or the superintendent wishes to discuss separately? No? Okay, at this time, could I get a motion?
Move we adopt the consent agenda.
Okay, moved and seconded. Kathy, let's just clarify, because on my sheet, on everything, it says roll call vote.
We used to do that
I know.
and Mark liked to do that, so it's up to you how you want to do it.
When do you guys have a preference? Okay, we're just gonna vote. So all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
That's lips move.
Is it yes?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mark. All right, we are on to the action items. Here comes Eileen to talk to us about the 2023-24 school fees.
Oh, the microphone needs to be turned. Right. Red button on the bottom.
All right, so tonight we have for you the 23-24 school fee. And at the elementary school, we don't have any fees scheduled for the year. At the middle school, the fees maintain the same as last year, except for athletic participation fees. We're changing from a free, reduced, and paid rates to a flat rate for the middle school. With us going 100% CEP at Neil Armstrong for the 23-24 school year, we cannot collect free and reduced applications. So instead of having that bridge, that stepped rate, and it was 20, 30, 65, we're going to do a flat rate of 30 for this year for Neil Armstrong athletic fees. As far as the high school, a lot of them are staying consistent. Yearbooks going up to $70 from $60. And then the athletic passes, fall maintains the same. Winter is increasing to 125. And then the all season passes is increasing to 175 from the prior year.
How come that's different from winter to fall?
The number, so I talked to, there was a question that kind of came up on some of the increases here. So I did talk with Doug Thompson this afternoon to kind of ask those basic questions. From fall to winter, it has to do with the number of home games that you're getting in. So that's why the number is different fall to winter. The family pass, he went out and talked to other folks in the league, and that's why he proposed this increase. I will say that he's not married to that increase. So that's what he's proposing, just based on what other people in the league are paying. But we can talk about that if there's an issue there.
I do have a question about that, and I think that what I noticed is that those two athletic passes, one was an increase from I think $80 to $125, and the other one was maybe $135 to $175. I guess what I'd like to propose is that if that's where we think we have to be, that we phase that in over a year or two and not do it all at once.
So would you have in mind, Mark, that we did like half of that, like maybe instead of 125, it was 100 this year, and then next year it goes up to 125, or?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's between, I think, it's the rough math, 20 and 30% increase. That's an awful lot. And, so I would phase it in. I don't have to, it could be a year or two, or it could be up to 3 years or something like that, but let's not do it all at once is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree. It just seems like a big increase. Right off the get-go. So I don't know, what do you think, Fred?
So Doug went out and did a comparative analysis with the other schools that we're saying did.
The winter one was done based on the number of contests that there's more home games this time. That's part of that increase. The second one, the family pass, is the one that he was proposed it comparing to other folks in the league.
Okay.
I will also say that Doug says he hasn't sold one of those in a while.
I was gonna ask, did they sell them last year?
They did sell them, just no one bought them.
And And I would say, I mean, I talked to Doug about this as well. So anyways, that's what I would propose.
That I want to kind of figure out how we want to phase that in. I think that's totally appropriate.
Yeah, I'm good with that too. Do you have any ideas, Mark, on how you want to phase it in?
No, honestly, I just leave it up to the district. I just think that to try and, I don't know how many passes, but are sold or not sold, but the increase is a lot. I felt like it was just a lot at once. So, phase it in over a couple of years, but how that's done is really, I think the district's heard maybe our concerns and they can sort out how that's done.
So why don't we do this? I'll make a suggestion that we approve this minus those pieces. I think the fall is the only one that they're going to be selling immediately. I think that price is fair. And then I'll come back with you with a recommendation on the other two. Does that sound okay? That's fine.
Be fine with me, yeah.
If we bring it back on
Bring it up the next one, it should be fine. Right?
Would there be a way to include a feedback for people that did buy it now, that's right, if we did?
Well, I think right now we don't have a price.
Right, so right now, any student that's already paid, for example, Neil Armstrong, if they paid full price at Neil Armstrong, they would then get a credit or a reimbursement of the difference if they've already paid it. Just because we're setting the rate so late.
But
Is this something that we need to do tonight? I mean, is it something you can't bring back, or was it time right here?
I mean, could we just say we're gonna change price to 100 and 150? I mean, that's just like splitting the difference.
You
I
could.
mean, I don't know, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but it seems like
Where's Doug?
Yeah, I
Here.
think Doug-
Okay, let's.
they didn't show, so I don't blame
He's not here.
You're doing it fine. So could I make a motion saying that we're gonna approve school fees as recommended, changing the winter athletic pass to $100 and changing all season pass to $150. Would that be a fair way to do that? Is everybody okay with that? Mark, you're good?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so are we done discussing?
No, so the lunch, the free reduced lunch for sports, so we provide like snack lunches for the.
No, if a family has filled out the free and reduced application for school meals and qualifies for reduced meals for lunch, they also qualify for reduced sports. So, it gives our families in poverty or families in need a way of not having to pay the full price for athletics and still being able to participate. So it's not that the meals are linked to the sports or the activities necessarily, it's just if they qualify for that, then they get the reduced rate.
I thought that we were, or maybe I misunderstood that, all the kids were gonna have free lunch this year, paid as well.
They are, the high school, however, is doing free lunch through provision 2. And so provision 2 requires us on the base year to continue to collect applications for free and reduced, and that will give us a reimbursement rate for our meals, for our meal service program. So in the first year, we do have to collect free and reduced applications, and if we went with a flat rate at the high school, then that doesn't give us an incentive to collect those applications, so we won't get the reimbursement rate we need for our meal service program. So year 1, we will definitely want to collect free and reduced applications for food service this first year, but
At the high school.
at the high school alone. But if our rates come up high enough, then year 2, 3, and 4, we won't have to collect any, and we will have to go to a flat rate structure next year.
Remind me of where the money's coming to pay for the free, I mean, for the lunches to be free.
Those are federal programs.
Those are all. That nationwide,
They're offered nationwide, yeah.
is that fill out an application?
It depends on, provision 2 is based on your free and reduced applications. And then, CEP is based on your direct certification. So, SNAP benefits, foster, migrant, those certifications. So it's 2 separate programs, but we're utilizing combinations and. Yeah.
Any other questions about the fee? Okay, at this time, I move to approve the 2023-2024 school fees as recommended, changing the winter athletic family pass to $100 and the all-season family pass to $150. All right, all in favor?
I,
Yes. All right, motion passes. Number 2, Arturo is going to come up and present on the flexibility of instructional hours for Forest Grove High School. I guess he has assistance.
I'm bringing some backup. Good evening. So we're here tonight to share a little bit of information and seek approval for a waiver for Division 22 compliance, instructional minute compliance that is required throughout the state by Oregon Department of Education. And so really we're out of compliance. We have a waiver process to come to the board to seek approval every year. And these 2 experts will explain more. It's around minutes, instructional minutes at the high school level, and late start, early release, and our processes for that. And I'm going to turn over to Brian.
Okay, so we are seeking approval to have seniors take less than 7 of 8 classes per semester. Generally, and I'll kind of explain the process of what we do to make sure who earns that right. So if a senior wants to have early release or late arrival, or 1 less class or 2 less classes a semester, and sometimes 3, they have to be on track to graduate. They need to not have any credit recovery. They have to have their first credit completed. So those students who do meet that requirement will fill out a form for parents to sign to have the last block off or the first block off, and in some cases maybe both. Students who take advantage of this are usually kids who are trying to leave to work, or they have a heavy course load. They might have 5 AP classes at ASB, and they might be playing sports. So having that last block off is a nice option for them on the AB schedule. If it's an AB schedule, they'll have 4th and 8th block off. So they'll have class till 1:30 every day, and then they have a little bit of a break between practice or sporting event. They also don't miss 2 classes. We had quite a few seniors took advantage, probably more than we've ever had. But having said that, we also had probably our best senior class in terms of, I think our grad rate, you'll see that. I shouldn't say this until it's official, but I feel like our grad rate will go up. I think we had 25% of that class earn the honors diploma, which we had to earn 27 credits beyond the required 24. 46 of those students also have 0 period weight training. So even if they have weight or last block off, they have a 0 period, so they are really not taking less than 7 of 8. This year's forecasting, I went through all the early release forecasts, the arrival forecast, to make sure those seniors were all on track. They were on track. I took it out of their course requests, and put credit recovery or whatever class they need to graduate. If they don't have their careers credit, I took it out of their schedules. Then I visit with the counselors and tell them, when that form comes in, you have to make sure that they are in compliance and are able to have that release. We had one senior who did not graduate that had release. And that senior was a 6-year senior who was living on their own, and we were just trying to retain that senior in school. And that was the way we could do it. And they're still working towards the diploma. Every other senior who had that release graduated. So, questions?
So I have a question, and I think I kind of ask this or make this comment every year. So students have the opportunity to earn 32 credits, I think 8 each year for 4 years. And I guess I understand that the grad, for the seniors, the graduation rate was high. I guess my question is, we're on the one, there's 32 opportunities, and students are, the bulk of them, I think, maybe are graduating with 24 credits. Maybe, and some with 27, a lot, with 27 last year, because it was a 25% amount in the senior class. But so it just doesn't, it just always seems odd to me that, that there's that many opportunities. And maybe one of the things, Brian, I don't know, maybe in your report next year, I don't know, it'd be nice to know how many students had 27 or more credits. Because I think the high school has great course offerings, and that'd just be interesting to see. Or maybe you could speak to it tonight. Maybe you know that, Brian, already. But.
I cannot speak to it tonight, but I can pull it and give it to you guys next week.
Whenever.
I think I can tell you, this is just personally, I know of several seniors who are going to college with as sophomores. Because of the dual credit AP offerings we have. So that's another piece of information I can share too. But I can give you like how many seniors had 27 or more credits. I can do that for you next week, probably.
Yeah. Do you think, or are we, just another question. Do you think that do you think we'll see an increase of students graduating early?
Yeah, I remember you asking that in the past. This year we had 6 that graduated, juniors that graduated. And I think they have to apply into their sophomore year. So I think it's 7 right now. So it's maintained.
Yeah.
When kids come to us about graduating early, we meet with the family and we talk about the dual credit opportunities. And also, if you do graduate early, that starts the Oregon Promise, the free community college equation earlier. So we discourage it at the end of the day if they still decide that. It seems like most of the students are doing that or trying to go to a trade school or military. We did have one who graduated early this year. She also earned the 27 credits, and she got an honors diploma in One Pacific. That's a pretty rare case. She had to do more. She had to take an extra class outside the school day. But yeah, it's hanging on about 6 to 8 kids per year.
Okay.
We really try to sell the dual credit piece. When they say they want to start college early, counselors and VPs talk about, you can do college here for free. It's right. You can take all these classes are dual credit, PCC, Southern Oregon. Right. So we really try to push that.
That's, I guess, what I am hoping, that students take advantage of the opportunity they have at the high school to do that.
Yeah. The other thing that is helping retain students is the pathway. career pathways and core acquisition for graduation. We had over 200 cores awarded to the senior class. And so that helps them progress to the CTE program and helps them kind of target what kind of electives do I want to take throughout my 4 years. And we also introduced that in our high school success class, their 9th grade years. So we have CTE teachers come in and talk about their program because so they can kind of map out what you can take beyond the graduation requirements. So that's, and it's amazing what a core, I don't know why a core is so incentivizing, but it is. They like their cores, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So I'm gonna echo much of what Mark, you mentioned there is actually in a little jumble of thoughts here. I wasn't ready tonight to vote yes on the waiver because I'd like to see, I mean, I'm interested if we have time, I think it doesn't have to pass until October. I would like to see some of the deeper data, and Brian, you mentioned a little bit of it there, but you know, I know the law says if everybody's on track and we have the grad rate and it shows, I think we all know across the state and the nation, kids are graduating without being able to be competitive, right? So if there's opportunities within our schools or our system to be able to rethink what they need at those levels that we can offer. I mean, those are the bigger questions you start asking about what this waiver is maybe doing it to the system unintentionally. I think for the kids that leave for work, if that is the reason, what is the, how many kids are doing that? What type of work are they doing? Can we be creative with offering credit for that work they're doing? Because I also think about who's taking advantage of the 4 years. I'd like to see the data on who's staying and then put that data set together, you know, and so, and it could be that all of the kids taking advantage of this, their math and reading scores are off the charts and feel very comfortable. I mean, I would like to see additional data points other than just they're on track, careers credit, you know, skill wise, do they feel comfortable? Do we have exit data on these kids that have done this to see how many of them went to a career path that they wanted to? There's just multiple pieces, I think, that are still there to be able to be included before I feel comfortable saying yes. I think, you know, of those graduating, of those 292, how many are going to college? But you did mention, you know, multiple people are jumping. What is the data on that we have? And then it would be really nice to hear from a couple students in person that either felt like they wanted to do it for the reasons you mentioned, but also kids that felt like unfortunately they have to do it. And so they weren't able to take some of those classes that some of those kids that are still in high school are taking, or the kids at Calc, and the breakdown between Calc and the high school would be interesting to see. Are kids more engaged in staying longer because of this? If kids are working and they need a night class, is that something we look at in the system? I mean, that's, I think, what this eventually pushes towards those big questions. And I have no doubt that we're all working on those things already, right?
So a couple thoughts that we don't have October to do this, because they're scheduling kids now. So like it's happening. So there is some, we don't have tons of time. I think the data, we can look at that. I'm also going to tell you right now, the kids are overwhelmingly in favor. They're coming to them wanting this. So this wouldn't be an issue about whether or not kids want to do this much. This is overwhelmingly positive for them. Now the data part, I think we can pull some of that data together, but we would need, I don't know, like October 28th, not October, August 28th, John.
Yeah, I haven't seen any revisions to the law, but the board has to take action before the student starts school, is what I recall when we started it 5-6 years ago.
So I guess it makes me think about, you know, if a district was not to be in compliance, how would that look different for this next year and what we're looking at in planning? And I mean, I'm not saying that this year, but I really want to think about if this passes, you know, tonight on the vote. Those are some deeper questions I want to explore. There are kids, yes, we see it everywhere. What I've heard from kids in different high schools is that they love to take advantage because they don't want to be at their school anymore because they want to work and there's multiple reasons why they do that, but I guess I'm getting at, what if the district could be thinking about, what would it take for you to be here? And again, the kids that are staying, why are they staying? And who is that? Is that the College Foundation kids that are the ones left? I'd just like to see what that is, because I think then that drives the conversation of where we go. And kids that have to work, is that obviously, that's what we hear all the time, valid, culturally important for families and situations. But again, are we making sure those kids have an opportunity to earn a credit for that? Just like the kids that don't have to work and do stay in school, or stay in school because Forest Grove has this amazing senior program that works for some kids. So.
And just to speak, they do earn a work experience credit. So if they do work outside the high school, they work, it's called work experience, it's a 0.5 credit they can get each semester. And they have to do a resume update, and they have to have their supervisor do evaluation, and they have to do like a short essay on their work experience.
But that's the 0.5 career credit, not a credit that would be tied, or is it a
It's
credit?
a 0.5 elective credit called work experience. It's outside the career
So
credit.
it's elective. So, again, like thinking outside the box, that those credits eventually could be tied to a credit that is more helpful on a resume to be competitive, or that builds a skill. It's just a bigger, broader thinking question, but.
I'm just thinking of timeline here. I understand what you're asking, and I can see this over maybe a year period of time, that we come up with some data set that we want to track, and then come back in the summer and say, where do we end up? I don't know that they could gather that kind of data between now and the 28th.
Yeah.
What is it today? The 14th? That might be a little difficult.
Right.
So, but if David, if you wanted to maybe put together an outline that, and with Christie's comments, and figure out what kind of data points we need to do that over a year's period of time.
Well, and just the bigger question to Mark's point is, where is high school moving? Are we moving to a school where the majority of kids are gonna kind of check out after sophomore, junior? Because, there's so many choices that is that where schools are going? Is that where we want this school district to go? And it either way can be equally valuable to kids. But where do we know, or, should we know?
Yeah, those are big picture questions.
Yeah, and I would just add, having been in different systems, those are all fair questions. I think, we can spend this year kind of investigating the data and also asking ourselves, what's our philosophy around seniors leaving early, right? There's different districts have different practices and policies around whether minimum requirements, you can only be off 2 periods or even 1 period. So that, to your point, we're strongly encouraging them to maximize the classes that we currently offer. And I think as a district, that's just something fair for us to wrestle with and ask.
Yeah, or
Over
to Dave's point too, maybe that day comes back and says, wow, all of these kids are like off the charts going on in their lives to be competitive and successful, and again, looking at how we collect exit data and what that could mean, then great, then let's build up that, but just kind of thinking about making sure we're.
So less anecdotal kinds of, and more data, exit data, those kinds of things.
Right.
Yeah, and then my only concern is between now and the 28th, it might be a little difficult.
Yeah, I mean, if we have a list of things that we want to ask kids who are asking for their release, we can easily collect that over the year. And it's a good check for us on why they want their release. Those are conversations we have with kids all the time. Like, you should take a 4th year of math, you should take a 4th, all those conversations we have. So we can do that for sure, and get that data. We just can't do it. We'd be going back. And if we don't have that this year, then all of our seniors are going to take 7 of 8 classes, which is going to really handle the schedule part of it. I personally don't think we have the FT to do that. You'd have seniors taking culinary 1, woods 1, metals 1, and then it's freshman
I
sophomore.
was gonna say, none of them want to be in a classroom with 20 freshmen.
And they would be able to get into those
But we
classes.
do staff as if all seniors would be in class, right? That is the staffing allocation.
That's not in my experience.
Okay.
When I run the schedule, that is not what it's like.
I think it'd be great to, when they're coming, when the students are coming to you, ask these questions about
Yeah.
why, and then you guys just keep track of it, and then we can talk about it at the end of the school year.
Yep, I can do
I
that.
mean, personally, my kids did early release, but they're also going to zero period weight training, so they're there all day anyways, and then you have a chance to do their homework, they have a chance to do lunch before they have to go to practice, they have miss class to go to games, so I like it, but, and I just think it's different for each kid, and
And we can track how many kids are in that boat. We also have an honors pass. It's not kids just leaving in the middle
I did that.
or at the end or at the beginning. They can take an honors pass in the middle of the day where they actually have to like a study hall, not going to a class, but they have a break to study during the day in the building, in the library, with the libraries, or the cafeteria.
Yeah,
But we
I
can
did
track
that.
that and figure out who is actually taking further release in the private line, for sure.
I have a couple of questions too. So I'm looking at this data. We're looking at 2022, 23. So was there like 385 seats? Is that how I'm reading this sheet? Is there a total of 385 seats last year?
I think, I guess according to that sheet, yeah. It's kind of hard to tell because some of the seniors are at Calc as well. And we had 415 walk. But more, there's more seniors than that.
All right, well, the data I have here, it looks like 92 kids are full-time seniors. That's, taking the numbers off here. And one of the requirements, I didn't hear you say, do they have to have a CD average or above to be able to, have early release?
Honors pass.
What's that mean?
So we do not have a GPA requirement for early release. What Ms. Lemieux was talking about is honors pass, you have to have a 3.2 GPA to have the honors pass in the middle of the day.
Okay, so if they wanted an early release at the end of the day, beginning of the day, they still have to have an honors.
No, if they want to have an early release for late arrival, we do not have a GPA requirement for they do.
So we would know,
Yeah.
we would know if they were a strong reader or a strong mathematician, we would know that. We just give it to them because they requested.
I don't know that I can agree with you for sure. When a kid comes to use early release, I don't go investigate their lifestyle score or anything, but I do look at their transcript and I counsel them like on why they would want to be here. And what are their reasons for not wanting to be here?
And that they're on track.
Right, and on track to graduate and I'm hoping that if they're on track to graduate, they pass stage 1, 2, 3, and the 3 years of math, then their skills are high.
So, and I know high school is different than where I went, there's a lot of it. But we were in school all day long. I mean, there was no early release and there was classes and opportunities to do. And I'm curious about, I know we did a survey and I know we had a whole bunch of different grade classes this past spring for the kids, that was great. But do we survey the companies where these kids go to work, out of high school or college? Are we providing the needs for those companies by these kids being released early? And also, do we look to see where they are after a year after they graduated, 5 years after they graduated, those that are college bound, those that are not college bound? I have an issue with this early release. I understand the work issue for that, but I also know that boys, and I read a wonderful book this summer, the boys mature later than girls, and the boys are academically behind the girls. In college, there's more girls in college than boys now, and you can't answer all these questions now, and I know that. I know you. We might be here till then. But I just would like us to take some time over the years to look at some of these things, because it's great that we're meeting the kids' needs and they're really happy with it. If I was a high school student, I would love early release. I would go out and move on with my son, have a job. Is it in their best interest? That is my concern. And I know it is too, with that, but I would like more data and more information.
The tracking of some of that, Kate, is challenging because when students exit the high school and go on to their next steps, that data is self-reported. There's really no good way to track where kids go and get feedback from their college or their employer. And so that next step, when the seniors graduate, they have to fill out a survey as far as, where they're going, what scholarships they got, what their intentions are. But as far as then following all of that up, that's a challenge. So,
Yeah, I wonder what other schools, like Lake Oswego and some other schools, how they gather that data, or do they just gather that data?
So couple of wonderings. One, I don't have a problem at all with us continuing to look at what data we can capture and capture. But I will tell you that I don't know of any district that is not running 27 to 32 credits. And I don't know any district who is forcing kids to take every credit, 0. Newburgh, I think, is now running a 7-period day. That might be the closest, but I know they have early release and late arrival, and they, like we do, we work with parents to counsel and to make some agreements. But I just want to put that out there that the world's changed since you and I took straight 8, straight 7. And so, again, I'm not opposing, because I do think it would be, I mean, if we want some data, we will keep some data, and the questions about who the kids are and why they're taking these things, those are all, that's good information. But I just, the movement back to a straight 8 or a straight 7, I don't know anybody who's doing that. It would also push our class sizes up quite a bit.
So I'm not done. But it sounds to me is, is this an economic issue? Or is this an academic issue, or is it both?
To me, it's a kid issue, because when a kid wants to take, when we have the rule of a kid having to take 7 of 8 classes, I'm the one who has, or the counselor's the one who has to cancel that kid on why they can't do that. And it's a battle. I've been there when we had to do that. It's a battle that, and it's not a lot of kids, but it's enough that we're spending a lot of time trying to convince a kid to do something that kid and the family don't want to do.
And then they'll become a dropout.
No,
they'll skip class.
no, yeah, they don't become a dropout. They just don't want to take that 8 block class. And so then you force them into it, and they graduate, because they're not gonna not go just and risk graduation. But if that's something that doesn't interest them, they're just not gonna go. They're not gonna go very often. That's a whole other.
And that's a whole attendance.
So it's not an economic issue to me, it's a kid issue. I want to meet the kid and the family where they are. It's both sides. I can picture the kid right now that is barely coming to school and he's working a lot, and he doesn't want to be there. And we try to give him the minimal schedule so that he can finish. That's where he is, and we've tried everything else to try to keep him engaged. And we've given him a minimal schedule. That kid actually is working at Virginia Garcia. The only thing he was interested in was the healthcare pathway. He only needed English and Econ and Gov. He took the healthcare pathway. That's all he needed. He graduated, and he had 5 classes, and now he's working in the field he wants to work at. I can also picture the girl that took 6 of 8. She's going to OSU right now. She's got 77 college credits going into a freshman. She's also a junior. It's a kid issue. That she didn't want to take 7 of 8 block class for it. She didn't want to, you know what I mean? It's a kid issue. Kids do not want to be there all day. A handful of them. And apparently the senior class is a big handful of them. So.
Yeah.
So it's just meeting the kids with what they want and trying to cancel them like what's best. And that's why I think that getting the survey data is great. We're gonna have to look at it more this year than ever with Senate bills. So why do you want 4th block and 8th block off? What's the reason? Is it economic? Is it work? Is it need a break? Is you have a heavy course load, maybe classes? And then we'll have that data. But I think if we don't allow that to happen this year, we're gonna be fighting kids and parents with what they want.
I feel like if the kids are on track to graduate, who are we to say, you have to do more? We asked them to do these things and they did it. And now we're gonna be like, okay, but you didn't do enough. No, they did what we asked them to do, and they don't feel like going to Woods One.
Yeah, and we do ask them to do more than graduate too. We want them, I talk to kids all the time. This isn't just a graduation meeting. This is what are you going to do after graduation meeting? So we want you to be eligible for 4-year school, even if you're not thinking that right now. We want you to have all these opportunities. So we do ask them to do that. It's just a handful of them. It becomes a battle.
Well, and I think it's, oh, sorry, Greg. I was just gonna say, you mentioned a bigger question there.
I mean, and Val just said, if you're on track, and I think it's how this district defines on track. And if it's all, every kid is different. I mean, everybody's doing all they can in the school. So this is not about, this is not about schools needing to do this. This is me saying to this district, no other district, we go to 32, so we have choice. So the next piece of that is having schools figure out what the staff you have and the skills you have and certifications. What can we offer? So the majority of kids, it will be useful, right? Like we're all doing that. But Val, like when you say on track, to me, on track with no GPA requirement, and that's a low bar. So the question might just be, after we see the data as a district and we have a conversation, do we raise the bar? So kids, this is an incentive that all kids want, some kids need for various reasons, but we might raise that bar. So on track in our district means way more than what it does in other districts. And we know in other districts with graduation, like districts are scrambling to like give a kid that needs that credit a packet for a month and suddenly they get the credit. This is happening everywhere so we can get our grad rates up. I mean, we all know that's happening with the best of intentions, but it's a bigger conversation about what does on track mean for us? And for a parent with kids that are in the weight program, that's a different data set. They don't know issues. And maybe, like I said, that's what we see, the majority is great. And that helps us build, that helps us know where to go with it.
So I'm just gonna, just listening to this, and maybe set up a framework to gather the data points that we need to have the bigger questions at a different time. And maybe kind of beginning with the end in mind, what we would want to see from our seniors in terms of their education, their choices. And I know you guys go through and sit down with them and counsel and do the whole thing. But maybe just gather that data within that framework so that we can have the bigger questions at another time. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
And so if I might suggest, maybe we create a quick little, like grab two folks off of the board to kind of do a subcommittee. We get together and kind of talk through what that framework looks like so we can collect that data.
Yeah, that would be my suggestion.
So I just have one.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So I think it was about 4 years ago that we changed to a 32 credit schedule. Maybe it was 3 years ago. Do you remember, Brian? Or
We've been at 8 credits for, the only time we did that was in 2011 when we had to make major budget cuts. And we went to a 7-period skinny.
okay, when did that end?
We had to stay on that for like 3 years.
So probably the 8 blocks
So
for about 8
We've
years,
been 8 blocks
8 or 9 after that.
after that, and then before that, another 10, 12 before that. So 20 years in total.
Okay, I guess I'm not remembering it right because I thought we had a change in the courses that were offered, the number of courses offered. I thought we did that 4 or 5, I don't know,
Nope.
word for 5, maybe it was 5 years ago or 6, but maybe I'm wrong about that. So
Neil Armstrong?
no, because no, it was I guess maybe I need to look into it because I thought we did a change to offering 32 credits sort of recently. And I guess what I was thinking was, maybe I'm wrong about that, but so maybe I need to.
The change in credits that we did, Mark, was specific to the honors diploma, and it did go from 24 credits to 27, and then the volunteer hours. Those are the changes that we made 4 or 5 years ago, I guess.
Okay, maybe you can just send me, maybe what would be helpful for me is if you can send me, that information about how long we've been on an 8 credit year, right?
Yeah.
8 credits a year, and when we changed from whatever we had before. Was it 7 or what was it before that?
Yeah, I can get that.
Yeah, we can do that, Mark. Again, it sounds to me like it was 8 credits and it was 7 credits and then it was 8 credits. I think
Okay.
it's
So maybe just that would be helpful for me because maybe I've got it wrong, but I go back to the 32 credit, 7 credit, 28 credits or 32 credits, or 28 or 32, would that be right? And the difference between those and whether 32 is getting us what we expected it would do. So.
Okay, so I'm gonna summarize. So I think we're gonna try and take a vote here on what's in front of us. I'm gonna set up a committee with a couple of board members and then folks, so we can kind of identify what data we want to track so that we can pull this information back at a later time to kind of talk it through. I think that's what we're on.
Okay, sounds good for everybody? Are we ready to vote on it? Okay, I'm gonna make the motion. I move to approve OAR 581-022-2320, required instructional time for 2 small a, big B, little b, for the 2023-24 school year. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Great, thank you. All right, let's do a roll call vote for this one. I'm a yes. Christie, I'm a no. Kate,
No.
yes. Mark,
I'm a yes, and I guess what I would say about that is it's going to be under the microscope this year.
okay, the motion passes 3-2. Thank you. Moving on to Microsoft licensing renewal for 2023-24. Enrique here for that.
The action item before you today is the district's Microsoft license is up for renewal. We are asking the board to approve the renewal of our Microsoft licensing through the OETC, which is a consortium here in Oregon, through their competitive contract for this upcoming school year. And this covers all our licensing for operating system licenses, office suite licenses, and all the access licenses. Our recommendation to administration is the board approve the purchase of our Microsoft license renewal for 23-24 school year.
Thanks, Enrique. Any questions for him? No? Would someone like to make a motion? Want me to do it?
I got it. I move that we approve the purchase of the Microsoft license renewal for the 23-24 school year from OETC.
I'll second. All in favor? Yes.
Yes.
Great, that one passes 5-0. Next up, Kim is going to present on contracted staffing services. This one.
Okay, so we have a requirement to have a district registered nurse based on the amount of students we have that are medically complex and medically fragile, and that through a state statute. We had a nurse retire last year. We opened the position in March and April, and thankfully we got several candidates that were really qualified. Offered the position to one person, they accepted. A week before summer vacation, they turned down the position. Second person interviewed them, totally qualified, excited about the position, and 2 weeks ago, they turned down the position. It's pretty timely because we need to do a lot of training with our staff. A registered nurse is the only person that can delegate medical tasks to an LPN or district staff. So diabetic training, administration of medication, those kinds of things. It's really complicated and hard to find somebody this late in the year. So what we'd like to do is we reached out to 3 agencies that gave us bids on their hourly rates. One happens to be a local company that provides a lot of support and training to their nurses, and they also work pretty quickly with our system. They worked with the school system, so they know what we need versus finding people from all over the country. They can find local folks. So I'm here tonight to ask that we take board action to spend up to $122,460 for the 23-24 school year. And we have chosen to go with Rally Force, which is an agency here in Oregon. This, is already a budgeted position, so we would just transfer those funds into contracted services and just exchange those on additional cost for the budget.
So when you're saying contracted service agency, are they gonna find you one specific nurse for the whole school year, or would that person be changing?
No, they would find one person. So what they'll do is reach out to candidates that are local and they will find a good match. We tell them what we want, what we need, how many days. They look for people who have experience in schools. And then they interview them internally and vet them that way. And then they offer us candidates to interview. So our team gets to interview and choose that candidate.
Were we gonna pay the previous candidates that decided to go somewhere else or do something different, the same 122,000 or?
I can't say that for sure because that's based, their salary is based on their years of experience and
I was like, hey, call them back and make them offer. No? Okay.
I will say that, I mean, if you look at an average salary, it's probably a little bit more than that, including benefits.
Okay.
So the issue is availability for nurses. And then salary would also be a contributing factor.
Yeah, I mean, I just have, I think everybody's competing for health services and I think we've got a lot of applicants because people are burned out working in nurse or in emergency rooms. They were working a lot of hours and I think there's places now that are just competitively bidding. So we could have gotten outbid. But I know that there is a shortage in healthcare, so.
I have a question, so what percentage does the nurse within the school versus doing, office work? Do you have that?
Well, I don't have the percentage breakdown. We don't necessarily track all of that, but we have a district, a health IA, who's a classified employee who actually does all of the clerical administrative work. And that's helped free up the nurse to do other things. We also have an LPN in the district too. So we place all our health staff, in various schools. So they are in buildings and then they travel between buildings during the day.
So when I was looking at this, you know, the rate, the registered nurse was $85 per hour, and then there was the licensed nurse, it was $70 an hour. What's the difference between?
So an LPN is a licensed practical nurse and they don't have the same education requirements. So Oregon law says that we have to have a registered nurse who is a BSN. So they have an actual TSPC license as a registered nurse.
Okay. But they're both registered nurses.
They're both nurses of some type, but
Yeah.
registered nurse, I would say, is probably they're the only ones that can delegate and do training to district staff.
And the salary that we're offering this year, is that similar to what we had last year, or did you increase it?
And can you?
Well, I think the salary here says 122,000, yeah, so
That's,
is that what we offered last year?
that's the total benefit cost of what's budgeted for that
Right, I
position.
realize that that's the whole thing.
Yeah, so that is what, if the person that was in that role last year would have stayed this year, that is what their total cost would be. That we're just converting it into contract services rather than their salary and benefits.
And if someone applied and said they wanted more money, would you just come back and ask them for more money?
I can't do that because it's a contract negotiation with our certified union. So,
Okay, good.
yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Good answer.
And again, this is a conversation going on with superintendents because we're struggling with this. Because these positions in particular, we almost need to start competing for them, but they do exist in our union, our labor groups, and we can't do that. So it's been a real challenge. I've had conversations with other superintendents around speech path, nursing, some of these very hard to hire positions, and it's a good challenge for us right now.
They just all have to fill in my part.
They do.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? All right, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve to spend up to 122,460 for 1.0 FTE district registered nurse position that is vacant at currently student service for 2023-2024 school year.
I'll second it.
Okay. Moved and seconded. We'll vote. All in favor? Yes.
Yes.
Great. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Last but not least, Mr. O'Neill is up here to talk to us about FGEA MOU for Martin Luther King Jr.
Yes, good evening. Thank you. At the end of our last contract bargaining session, at the end of last year, FGA, there were several topics that were left to be discussed. And the last one that we have of those items was the Juneteenth and Martin Luther King Jr. holidays. We had a district committee working together. FGEA and the district have discussed paid and non-paid holidays in that committee and agreed to change the contract, have Martin Luther King Jr. Day become a paid holiday and President's Day a non-contract day. This agreement does not increase the number of holidays or non-contract days. And the MOU, again, exchanges Martin Luther King Jr. Day and President's Day as a way to honor Martin Luther King Jr. Attached for your reference is the MOU for your review. I work closely with Brian Hungerford on this in multiple meetings, and they did as well. And so our district administration recommends the approval of the memorandum of understanding of Forest Grove Education Association for the Martin Luther King Jr. Day holiday as this. Are there any questions?
No? All right, hearing no questions or comments, thanks, John. We'll go ahead and I'll make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding with Forest Grove Education Association for Martin Luther King Jr. Day holiday as presented. Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Yes,
Great, motion passes.
Okay.
Future action items, Arturo is joining us again and bring with him Ted.
Yes, I'm back. So Tim's here with me, principal of Calc, and Calc has been on this journey. And Tim's been a big part of it, of the program operating. And so we're exploring the future of Calc and what it might mean to be a standalone campus. And so we wanted to talk to you a little about that today as we bring it back to you for future consideration, but just engaging in a conversation right now about Calc.
I'm gonna try to make this quick, but we are looking at moving to be a standalone high school. That would be a separate high school in the Forest Grove School District. Been principal 25 years. About 15 of that is alternative ed. One school I was at was a standalone school, one school was not. And right now, Calc is a program. As we've grown, it becomes harder to be a program when you get larger. There's flexibility and best practices that Oregon Department of Ed allows if you're a standalone school. And with the new Senate bill, it also makes it it makes it a little awkward to be a separate school from the main high school with the Senate Bill 819. Just a quick overview. We have three main programs at Calc right now. We have our core program, which is our Discovery Real World Best, the students that are in person all day. That's our main program. It was in 21, 22, it was about 60, it peaked at 60 students. Last year, we peaked at about 110. A lot of that was from investments that the school district did to add to the offerings we could give in the building. Student Center Achievement was a new program for last year. It is capped out at 25 students, and that is our cap for that. That's for students who need some extreme flexibility. Lots of different reasons why they would be in that and not be in our core program. It might be medical, it might be mental health. One student I can think of right now, he was floating out there with 3 credits, and he had disappeared during the pandemic. And we went, Tomas knew him, went hunting him down, brought him back in. He graduated last year, but he was working 40 hours a week. He couldn't come back to a traditional schedule. We brought him into Student Center Achievement, was able to get him the credits he was able to graduate. And the last is our virtual online learning. We capped that at 50. That used to be housed at Forest Grove High School. We're doing it now through Calc. And lots of different reasons why student want virtual online learning. Some of it's expulsion, some of it's again medical, some of it that's just what the family wants. We're not necessarily trying to compete with the large online programs, but having 50 student cap gives us a way to keep those 50 students in our school district. some of the advantages to be a standalone school. First, flexibility. We're not trying to replace Forest Grove High School. Forest Grove High School is an excellent, I've been very impressed, excellent school. But students want options, and families want options. So it gives us the flexibility to design individualized programs and also focus on the interests and needs of the students who choose to come to Cal. Back up a little bit, the core program went from being a referral program to a choice program. The students choose to go to our core program, the one with 110 students. It also allows us to develop some of the programs we're developing. An example is our Career Exploration Fridays. What we do is we take the whole school out on Fridays in small groups of about 10 to 15, and we go to different career sites. We go to colleges, we go to manufacturing sites, we go to apprenticeships, we go to students need to do more than hear about these jobs out there. They need to see it, touch it, feel it. It's fun to watch the kids get strapped in, get we're steel makers, union apprenticeship site, and they're getting to feel it, touch it, see it, and they have no idea that jobs exist. With Senate Bill 819, we would no longer be able to do that because Forest Grove High School, it's already a logistical nightmare to do with 110 students. They would not be able to do it with 900. But we would not be able to continue doing that with Senate Bill 819. We also have layers of support that we offer our students that being our own standalone school, we can continue to do that. And if you want to hear more about those programs, I'd be happy to talk to you about those. If you want to email me or talk to me about those. Again, I don't want to make a full report on those, but it also gives us an opportunity to create community partnerships. And I go to maybe Intel or other places, they want to know that we're a school. When you say you're a program, they kind of, their eyes glaze over and they don't see you in the same standing. Also, there's ODE federal grants that you have to be a standalone school to apply for. An example of that is the 21st Century Grant comes along every 5 years. It's a 5-year grant. Last year, I looked into applying for that. We had a really big one in Oregon City, but you have to be a standalone school to apply for it. And so again, that just gives us the ability to, again, those Fridays to get partners to let us come in. It's just easier when you're at school than, hey, I represent a program. Some of the challenges, we will get a state report card. Sometimes that makes it more difficult. If we get a student for one day and they leave, they are our dropout. And so, for example, we go grab the student who's dropped out, we convince him to come in, he comes in, he's with us for a day and leaves, decides that's not for him or her, then that is our numbers. And what I've done in my schools in the past is come before the board and explain, given lots of data showing, yeah, our graduation rate is 65%, but here's all the data on the students where we got them. We got them. They had, they were behind 80% in their credit, so they graduated as a fifth-year senior. That still counts against our graduation. We also have ensuring that it's not a traditional alternative school, meaning in the past, alternative school meant that you had to go there. Well, we've switched it to where students are choosing to come to Cal. And so again, we're moving to, it's an option, not a, we don't want you here, and now you go over there. Families want options, so that gives us the ability to have those options. Students and or parents wanting to graduate with Forest Grove High School diploma. Some students and parents, that's important to them that it says Forest Grove High School, and we've talked about that continuing on their diploma, that it says Forest Grove High School. In Oregon City, when we moved to this, after a couple of years, it's no longer a problem. The kids wanted the Oregon City Service Academy on their diploma. And so, but there also the graduation, like the actual ceremony, what we probably would move to and the group we could have conversations about is that there would be a CALC graduation. They could go to that, they could go to the Forest Grove High School graduation, or they could go to both. Typically, the student wants to do the small CALC graduation, or Oregon City was Oxford graduation, and the parents want them to be in the big community graduation, which I understand that you want your friends and family to see you graduate. And then the access to the extracurricular activities. That's gone well so far, but it's just, we need to make sure that we continue to offer kids that as we move to standalone school. Any questions?
What's the maximum at the new school?
So, we can probably fit about 120 in our core program, and then we can do 25 with the student centered treatment, and then we can do up to 50 on the online program.
So we saw, on the, enrollment sheet, 180 this past year, which was remarkable. Is that the next?
That's pretty close to the max. If we add up all that together, it's, you know, we can probably get 120. We could probably get 190, but we really be pushing it. And really, the limit is the facilities.
Right.
I mean, the facility, I don't know if you guys got a chance to go,
It's beautiful.
they did an amazing job, and, you know, I don't want to say that it's too small, but, because it's not, but to grow any bigger than that, we have to be bigger as a building.
Would there be a point where there are more kids wanting to apply or go, and at that point, would that conversation go with parents?
That happened in both Oregon City and Newburgh, and typically we were able to eventually get that student in. We started going to waiting lists. And it breaks my heart when we're on a waiting list, because I hate turning kids away, but it also has its advantages that students who come are coming and are taking it serious because they know that they got a spot.
You guys currently don't have a.
Not for our core program.
So what are the disadvantages of moving from a program to a standalone school? That's one question. And the other question is, through the kind of the last 20-some years, Calhoun's always seen as a place to go temporarily and then work your way back into the high school eventually as an option. And the other piece of that too is the idea of there are PTE courses that were offered at the high school that were appropriate for the group of kids that were at Cal. And so there would be a free flow back and forth to make sure that the student got the best of both worlds.
So the first
two
question, the disadvantage is a lot more work for me.
That's okay.
All right. The state report card, I've got to be prepared to defend and show data to defend the state report card. There's also, and that's about the biggest disadvantages I can think of. The other school I was at, that was a full standalone school. We had students taking classes at Oregon City High School because there were things there we couldn't offer. And they might have a half a day at Oregon City High School, half a day with us. Whichever school has the majority gets the FTE.
I understand.
Totally. So we kept that flow back and forth with letting them take advantage of the bigger school offering.
So is that the intent here?
I believe so.
Okay.
Parents, yeah.
So I
I
guess,
could be preparing.
okay. But is there a funding advantage or a disadvantage? No, it's a wash.
Students are students.
Redistricting resources, however, it could open up more opportunities for other types of grants and because it's a standardized, so that could support us in different ways.
Okay. So I do want to just say Tim wrote and got the 21st Century Grant in Oregon City. So I do want to give him that he's at least been through this. So we're working on that part of it. I think the challenge is really, we got to be able to tell the story because the data is going to look differently. They're working with some of our most challenged students. And so the data is going to look different.
The other thing I would add, having lived this too, I mean, it's about creating choice and options for kids and families, right? And more and more, that's a challenge for public education when they're getting kind of hit in multiple directions around trying to pull kids out of public education. So whenever we can create that choice within our district, I think that's very helpful. The challenge is as we continue to grow, how do we sustain that? And you know, there's OSA guidelines around being, you know, eligibility and things like that we've got to work through. But for me, at the end of the day, how do we provide choice, meaningful choice and options for our kids and families to have that rigor there as well?
I have one more question. So in the past, the alternative school has been a place where kids got suspended or expelled, they went, to Cal. That was an option for, the other school was Create. So is that still the option for kids?
So students, they are, some of the student center achievement and our online program have been through expulsion. Now, what we have seen is some students end up in student center achievement or online, they build relationships with our staff. And if they show us they're serious, then we invite them to come into our core program. And often students who are maybe displaying behavior in a large setting, in a small setting where those relationships are getting built, they will often, that will re-engage them in school.
Are we still offering Create or is it
No, we've merged that basically into Cal. I will say that I'm sitting down to meet and start talking about this exact issue is we do want Cal to be one, get a new name and become, it's an option school. We want kids who are choosing, who don't like the big traditional high school environment, to be able to make a choice. The fact that this is also a place where we're doing some discipline feels not quite right yet. We don't have another choice, but we are going to sit down in coming weeks, months, kind of start talking through that some more and figure out if there's some better ways for us to do this. We do have some FTE in these places. I just don't know yet if we've got the right system yet, but we're talking about that.
One last thing, one of the things I saw happen in Oregon City and Newburgh is we started getting 3.7, 3.8, 4.0 students who were white knuckling it at the large high school, meaning they just, 2,000 students is too much. And they started choosing a smaller school. What challenge then there was, how do we give them the rigor? Often we tap into AP classes for community college, Clackamas Community College, and help them, and they thrive. Not that we aren't drawing that from me, but really there became a whole spectrum of students, the reason why they chose. And those are students that we probably would have lost to other programs in the school.
When there's a one high school with one option school, you can still maintain a lot of that creativity with taking classes that aren't offered in one or the other. It just allows us to benefit from being a standalone school.
And with the resources that the school district has invested, I think one of the biggest things we're going to have is how do we increase the rigor? And we've got the relationships, we're getting the reason why you want to come to school, the Friday trips, but how do we make sure that these students are getting a lot of rigor, going from maybe having checked out for a few years of the educational process, and we re-engage them and then get them to meet a high bar.
I ask about the communication to the community about the school. I mean, this school probably, this is kind of a technicality of making sure it's designated that for the reasons we all know. How, is that something in the future after we talked about some of those things are kind of workshopped and figured out, like, okay, we're gonna land here, and then we'll reopen that conversation with the community, or if people are saying, hey, my kid could go here, could they go here? And that's the question I get, what would be the best response to that?
In Oregon City, we created a really nice brochure, and we had all these meetings, and we had going on. And then when I was meeting with families about why they chose Oxla, 98% of the time, word of mouth. My hairdresser told me that their son went there and cried, or my neighbor, my uncle, my aunt, my friend. I was a little disappointed because we spent all this money. Did you see the brochure? No. Did you go to the the big forum we put on? No. It was usually somebody in the community told them that their son or daughter had the experience.
I'll also say that this gives doing this standalone piece gives Tim a chance to bring kids together and talk about, like, that was the renaming part for me, which is to kind of rebrand the school, because not everybody really does know the changes that Tim's made and the way in which kids enter the school. They don't just go immediately into the core program. There's an experience that kids go through there. And so it's going to give us a chance to communicate that and actually have these conversations with our community.
I'd like to say one more thing. Forest Grove High School has been fantastic in working and communicating and being partners. Without that partnership, we wouldn't succeed.
Did you say, Tim, that you're gonna change the name of the school?
That's something we talked about, yeah.
Tim's not saying anything. It's me.
I think there's an opportunity for us, right, to kind of rebrand and really tell a different story of what we're striving to create with Calvin. Whatever it's named in the future, but our options.
I would just like to say thank you. You know, the number increment that happened last year was phenomenal. And I like your vision. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to future board items for discussion. Does anybody have something that they want to bring up for a future board item or anything they want to discuss? Oh, Mark does. Hi,
Just,
Mark. Oh, Mark might have had a question for Tim. Sorry, I was going to see you.
I think I would just say that one of the things I was thinking about is the waiver conversation that we've had tonight. If there's a way to do just what we did with Calc tonight, which would be to have a discussion about it as a future board action before we have to make a decision about it. If we could do that next year, I think that would be great. I was thinking about the calendar and whether all the data will be in at the end of June and when that would go out, but I just think it's going to be an ongoing conversation. It would be nice to have that over 2 meetings. So.
Yeah, I was just trying to think, like, so this year we had the meeting July 10th, but the problem with having that event, like, you guys are actually off for 1 month, like.
Really?
No, no. Yeah, it's been in July. The beginning of July.
Motion approved.
Not voting for me, Brian.
I think it's a great idea.
But I'm just wondering, like, if we need to do that in June, I don't know, something you can think about, Kathy, with the calendar and schedule, or.
Do we have an option for a work session?
Yeah, I mean, all of that, I like the idea. You're came quick tonight, so. Yeah.
Yeah, let's say the when he gets hot.
So Mark, we'll write down, I mean, if we can definitely do a work session. We can make it so that we're bringing the data before the decision. So you guys have more time to work with that. I think those are all great ideas.
I mean, I think it's an ongoing topic, kind of a hot topic. And I think, allowing more time to process it would be good for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chrissy?
Okay, so I'm looking at this for this section, where did they go? And this is this section where we share upcoming things or
Future board item.
thoughts. Well, so I would like to discuss eventually what we actually do say during this time, and if there's expectations that everybody does share something, what should that mean? Because I'm gonna be sharing all kinds of things, but what? And I'm like, but I guess, and I was gonna, these will be things at the retreat, but I retreat.
It'll be on the retreat agenda.
Yeah.
See, I'm learning, okay, but I will say, since it is time, right, but I did go to the school board conference, okay, represent Forest Grove down there. My one big takeaway, well, there are so many takeaways there, but I will bring this up at the retreat as well. My 2 big things are engagement and communication, and so questions about really as a board, and that'll be a learning piece for me new on the board, but how is our board, what is our plan to be engaged in the schools this year? And one of the things I've heard from multiple people in the community is we really would like to see the board people on the board, like back in the schools. And I know we all know the schools and we've been in the schools, but it would be really cool, I think, potentially, to think about having board members that would maybe keep an eye on one school and what they're doing, and then during that time, or maybe it's during recognition, we can highlight something that's being done. I mean, communication is always a challenge, no matter the system, to know what's happening. We get so much from Dave and Kathy, which is amazing, but just what does that look like? What is our role as board members going forward? How can we coordinate that or not, depending on what that looks like? And then is that what staff and students also would like? What do they expect from the board? And my second question was I have my own son that's been through his own program in this district, but not being involved on social media. How does that look? How are people getting the message about schools, and what's the board's role in that? So when I go to the website, even when I click on things like the board, a couple of those links don't quite go anywhere yet. I mean, there's a couple that do, and it's every website everywhere. The city's websites is the same. If you don't know what you're looking for, it's difficult to find what you might need. And that was one of the things at the school board conference we heard from school boards and different districts everywhere, the challenge of that. So I guess that's what I'm hoping for at the retreat, is a chance to learn from this board, what that looks like going forward, how we can support Dave. And then where do we hear from staff? I would be really interested to hear from, maybe this happens already, but staff somehow anonymously being able to say, like, this is what I've appreciated about how the board is running. Maybe that's feedback they already give today, but how do we collect that and know that we're serving in the way that, we're not in the way, but we also maybe should be more engaged, or not? Do we even know what engagement level we could be doing? Or just, that's it. That's nice.
So yes, we already have that scheduled. I'll also say that the third part of our strategic plan is all about student and parent engagement. So we're actually off and rolling, kind of beginning to do work around how do we extend the way that we communicate. I will also say that the board's job is around policy and governance. And so so we should talk about what we as the board want to do and how to do that. Certainly this board is very connected with teachers. The teachers are communicating with you individually all the time. But I also think let's sit down in it's already on the schedule. So this was a conversation that we were going to have, but we can kind of talk through that.
Yeah, over the past, 10 years or so, 8 years, it's changed from year in and year out. Depending on when we meet at that retreat, and we have those kinds of discussions and decide as a board how we want to behave as a board member, and what the interaction is between schools and board members, and what the expectations are. And we had ground rules. We also followed the ground rules and kind of procedures and policies, but they've changed from year in and year out, depending on who's on board. So those will be good discussions. Yeah.
Anybody else? All right, I will adjourn the meeting at 6:59. Oh, shoot, sorry, we're not adjourned.
No.
You don't have to go over it, just mention that it's in your board.
Oh, okay.
Okay, right.
In our board packet, there's the Oregon English Language Learners Annual Report. Please check it out. 6:59 still.
Thanks. There you go.
First, I did that. Well,
You're outstanding.
done.